Joining us now to talk about what could be ahead for corporate taxes, Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O-Shares ETFs, Shark Tank investor and CNBC contributor, and Alexis Goldstein. She's senior policy analyst at Americans for Financial Reform. Alexis, when we went down to 21, inversions do seem to have stopped. We did repatriate a lot of money that's no longer abroad. Would your argument be that that was a mistake to make our corporations more competitive globally, that nothing good came from that?
I do think that the research showed that the promises that were made in the wake of the Trump tax changes were broken. I don't think that there was no meaningful increase in business reinvestment. We did not see a boost to research and development. We didn't see an increase in workers' wages. What we saw is companies pushing out dividends to shareholders and buying back their own shares, and the majority of those benefits redounded to the top 1% who own the majority of the equity assets in the United States. And I think we can't just look at this in a microcosm. This is a part of a larger investment plan, an infrastructure investment plan that's going to create millions of jobs, that's going to improve the infrastructure, repair our roads, repair our bridges, bring broadband to every single American. Every company that wants to bring its goods and services to the United States is going to benefit from that kind of infrastructure investment. And let's not forget the corporate tax rates in the United States for decades and decades, from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, were over 45%. They were 35% until 2017. And I don't think that the changes that were made in 2017 fulfilled any of the promises that they made. I do think that we need to make sure that corporations are paying their fair share. And I think that the American public agrees with it. This is a broadly popular infrastructure plan. And when you tell people that corporate tax increases are a part of the plan actually becomes more popular across the board with Democrats, independents, and Republicans.
We just heard some of the actual facts from Robert. So U.S. firms repatriated $1.4 trillion in cash that was previously stuck overseas. Real median income, household income, increased $4,900. That was more than the 8 years of the prior administration. The GDP was $300 billion higher than the CBO projected in July of 2017, and business investment was $100 billion higher than projected. People that deny where we were in 2019 in terms of low-end wage growth, no more inversions. It seems like they were living in a different reality. Kevin, did you see benefits to cutting the rates?
Absolutely. The best metric to look at was the unemployment rate before the pandemic hit, below 4%. We were building an economy with momentum like we hadn't seen since the 50s. And so the idea that we would raise corporate tax rates is the mother of all really bad ideas, for a simple reason. You never want to be in the top quartile, let alone top of the list of corporate tax rates globally, because you only have to look domestically to see what's happening in the competition between states. I live and operate my businesses here in Miami. Why? I would never start a business in New York or Massachusetts or California. And today, with a mobile workforce, I thought I was going to have 15% of my staff not wanting to return to the office. I was wrong. It's more like 22 to 25%. Same goes for where you put a corporate headquarters. You don't have to put it in the United States anymore to be globally competitive. You can just see Nike right now is this complete digitization of its business and getting tremendous momentum and being able to sell product to everybody globally direct. So if we think we're going back to a 2019 world where you can just raise corporate tax rate, we're sorely wrong. If Yellen runs around the world trying to get a baseline corporate tax rate, she will come back with zero effectiveness on that. If I'm in Singapore, no chance I'm going to increase my corporate tax rate. Why would I do that? Right now, I'm pulling business into my economy, creating thousands of jobs at the expense of anybody that has a higher corporate tax rate. Because you can operate out of Singapore, you can operate in New York, you can operate out of Miami. I choose to operate in places where the corporate tax rates are lower. And so does the rest of money that flows to the path of least resistance. We would destroy this economy while it still has 9 million unemployed people. What's the point of flushing money out of a helicopter in these packages, $1.9 trillion relief package, and then immediately sucking it back in taxes? How dumb is that idea? We've got to let this money percolate through the economy, get these people employed again, and never, ever think again of raising corporate tax rates. I'd argue we should eliminate them and tax usage and tax people. And then we'd be really competitive.
Alexis, what does fair mean? When you say we need to tax, considering the corporations, the private sector generates the jobs, that's how we get employment, and then the people that get employed pay the taxes on their wages back to the government. What does a fair share mean? What do you mean they need to pay a fair share? What does that mean? Just define it. Fair share for corporations.
So if you look at the percentage of revenues that comes from taxation in the United States, it is majority payroll taxes and taxes on labor. It is not a majority of revenue that is coming on taxes on corporations. That is what I mean, is narrowing the gap. I think President Biden did a good job of articulating it by saying small business owners and the American public are tired of being fleeced. And if you look at the effective tax rate of multinational corporations, it's 8%. That's not what small business owners are paying. That's not what, and those are the engine of the American economy. I also want to point out the Goldman Sachs analyst last month said that the market was largely shrugging this off. Companies are smart, they're innovative, they're not wringing their hands about whether or not the corporate tax rate is changing. They're focused on innovating for their customers. They're focused on being in the United States, which has the most deep and liquid markets in the world. And quite frankly, I just want to paraphrase FDR, right? He said when people were also scaremongering about changes to taxes during FDR, he said, look, if people go, I shall miss them very much, but if they go, they will come back very soon because they're going to miss the United States. And I don't see the giant investment banks leaving New York because of high taxes, and I don't think we're going to see corporations leaving the United States. I think this is a very reasonable thing to increase investment in infrastructure, and we're going to have an increase in jobs that's going to account for all of the people who Kevin mentioned are currently unemployed. This is an investment in America that benefits the people, and it benefits businesses too.
Kevin?
You know, it's very simple. You have to think about one metric: jobs. Where do we create jobs? In American businesses. Where do we want American businesses? In America. You raise corporate tax rates to be the highest in the world. Where will American corporations go? Everywhere else. Where will those jobs go? Where they go. So it's very simple. That's why in Switzerland and Denmark and Norway, they have very high tax rates on people, practically zero corporate tax rates. They get the joke. Let's not make the mistake again and grind our economy to a halt when we have all these unemployed people by telling corporations, don't set up here. The microcosm tells you, nobody starts a business in New York anymore, ever, or Massachusetts, or California. We move them here to Miami, where we save almost 17% in taxes. You've got to account for state tax as well. So think about that. You only have to look domestically, internally to realize we can't mess with this now, not if we want to be globally competitive. And by the way, China would love us to raise our corporate tax rates. And are we in competition with them? In every sector of the economy. We're in an economic war with them. We'll cripple our forces, which are our soldiers of capital, by making them pay this brutal tithe, which is a completely useless tax if we want to grow our economy. I mean, frankly, I don't think it's going to even happen. Remember, midterms less than 24 months away, the incumbent always loses seats. That's my insurance. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, go ahead, try and raise corporate tax rates and watch what happens to this really thin margin either party has right now. I wouldn't make this change. I wouldn't risk it. I'd simply wait until we get to unemployment rates below 4%, and let's debate it again. I love this idea that raising corporate tax rates is good for the economy. Very, very bad idea in a new global competition. Absolutely. So I'm sorry, we've got to stay competitive, and I do not want to be the top of the corporate tax list. That sounds like a crazy idea.
Well, Kevin, I look forward to you all taking Shark Tank to, say, Canada or China, because I just don't think it will happen. I think you'll stay in the United States.
We'll see.
Oh, all right, great. All right, thank you, Alexis and Kevin O'Leary for the debate. I don't want Shark Tank to leave. That means we can't raise taxes, I guess. No, I'm kidding. Maybe we will. Maybe 25 is where we end up, O'Leary. That's looking more likely. I think they could do that through reconciliation. So we may get to test it out.